Hi, and welcome to another episode of Get Your Chat On with GYC Vegas, recorded and produced at the Video Podcast Studio. I'm your host, Gina Yager, founder and director of GYC Vegas, an award-winning PR and marketing agency. We believe every company has a story to tell, and we're passionate about getting businesses recognized. At Get Your Chat On, we sit down with local professionals to get to know a little about their organization, their role, and their perspective on our vibrant business community here in Southern Nevada. On today's episode, we're chatting with Jon Ralston, one of Nevada's most respected and influential voices in political journalism. For more than 40 years, Jon has shaped how Nevadans understand their government, holding public figures accountable through fearless reporting and sharp, fact-driven commentary. Jon has written for nearly every major publication in the state, including 15 years at the Review-Journal and as a columnist for the Las Vegas Sun and Reno Gazette-Journal. In 2017, Jon founded the Nevada Independent, a nonprofit digital newsroom that has transformed Nevada's media landscape and become an award-winning institution. A frequent commentator on national news programs, Jon has earned countless professional honors and mentored a generation of journalists who now lead in our state and across national newsrooms, cementing his legacy as one of the most impactful figures in Nevada journalism history. Hi, Jon. Thank you so much for coming to our show. I appreciate
thanks for having me. How do I live up to that introduction?
You do.
Well,
that is your
you.
story in a nutshell. So we want to
thank
hear.
you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We want to hear about the Nevada Independent and your vision for nonprofit journalism in Nevada.
Well, you mentioned I've been in journalism for over 40 years. I started feeling old as you said it, but it's true.
I know, I didn't mean to date you.
It's true. I've done a lot of different things in journalism as a reporter and a columnist, TV host. But the Nevada Independent is by far the most rewarding thing I've ever done. It was after my last TV show ended in 2016 that I thought maybe I'm old enough now, experienced enough now to actually, as you say, mentor young journalists, start my own news organization. And I looked at, back then, nonprofit journalism was not that widespread. There were only a few dozen at most outlets in the country. And so I went to somebody I knew who had run the most successful one, and I talked to him about it, gave me some good advice, and I went to the three best young journalists in Nevada at the time and asked them if they would take a leap of faith. They were all interested, and I said, great. Let me see if I can get 2 years of funding in the bank because you're taking a leap of faith. I don't want you to think it's going to be a short-term thing. Now, I'd never raised money before, but one of the skills I had in journalism, I think, came in handy, which is being shameless. And I also felt a lot more sympathy for the politicians I'd covered with asking for money.
Right.
So what happened was I finally got all the commitments I needed shortly after the election in 2016, and we got started very quickly. I hired someone to build the website. The reporters came on board. My old friend Elizabeth Thompson, I asked to be my number two. And she knew a lot about business. And what I didn't know is she had a 501c3, a nonprofit, ready to go. These can take a long time to get the accreditation.
Wow.
And so that was, and she I like to say she agreed to do this before the main course came in the dinner that we had. And, the rest is history. We started on January 17th, 2017, on the eve of the legislative session. And it has been a roller coaster ride for almost 9 years now. We're about to celebrate our 9th anniversary early next year. And it has just been so rewarding, as I said, to be with these young journalists. It is the best thing I've ever done. And I'm not being glib. It's the one that has the least to do with me and my work. I had the vision, sure, I started it, I founded it, but it's working with these remarkable young people who have bought into the culture of what we're trying to do and the branding of, I thought there was a yearning out there for in-depth, fact-based, fact-checked, transparent journalism with all the alienation people have from the media these days. Back then too, but it's even worse today. And so far, I'm knocking on whatever this is made of. It's lasted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You came to Las Vegas in 1984 as the night police reporter for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. How did you realize that political journalism and holding power accountable was your true calling?
I had no idea when I came here. And to be honest with you, you've probably heard this story before from friends and maybe people you've had on here. I came to Vegas from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I had just gotten a master's in journalism at the University of Michigan. Okay. I was looking for an entry-level job. There was a job open in Vegas, and I said, I'll be here for a couple of years max, and then my career path back east to the New York Times, and the rest of it. And I never left. That was almost more than 41 years ago now, and I have no regrets. I had no idea that I would be a political journalist, but I was thrown into the political reporter's job a month before the primary in 1986, and I just fell in love with it, and I've never wanted to do anything else since except cover politics, which I've done in many different ways, as you mentioned earlier. And we do a lot more than politics at The Independent, of course.
Right.
And I still can't believe somewhere I have a business card that says CEO. The fact that I'm the CEO of anything should scare anybody who's known me for a long time. But I still thrive on politics. I still do a lot of political stuff in a newsletter that goes out every morning, and I go on MSNBC once in a while to talk about Nevada nationally, which is still fun.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What are some of those key milestones that helped shape your career, from a political columnist to multiple publications that you've been at, and then finally founding Nevada Independent?
Well, I think the first big milestone, I guess, is when I was actually thinking of leaving Las Vegas in 1988 to go work for another paper. I just covered a couple of election cycles, and I felt like I had the kind of resume and clips to get me a job at a bigger paper, and I started applying, and the Review Journal at the time found out I was applying and offered me a political column to stay, and I was only 29 years old at the time. People are busy doing their math now to see how old I am, but I thought if I ever became a political columnist, I'd be at least 40, and so it was an opportunity I couldn't turn down. So that was the first big break I had. And then in 1992, I decided to go out on my own, and I started my own political newsletter called the Ralston Report. It was then printed and mailed to people every other week, and I still wrote a column for the Review Journal as a freelancer. And then I started doing some TV, and I was asked to do some political analysis for one of the stations, and I did that. And then the other big milestone, was when Danny Greenspun came to me and said, "Would you come work for us? I know you think we're the evil empire." The competition between the Review Journal and the Sun back then, as you know, was very intense. But he made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I got a TV show, and which took different iterations. I did that for about 16 years for different stations before I decided to start The Independent. And so I've been very, very fortunate. But I've also worked pretty hard.
Very hard.
Yeah.
My gosh. Yeah. Let's talk about your driving mission. What would you say is the mission that lies at the heart of your work at the Nevada Independent, especially in transforming the media landscape here?
So it's interesting. I don't like the expression, but it was kind of the perfect storm when we started. Sheldon Adelson, late Sheldon Adelson, who was a major player on the Strip and a big player in national Republican politics, had just purchased the Review Journal. And there was a lot of controversy about that and whether they were going to become essentially his plaything for campaigns. And the Sun had retrenched; it had gone to the afternoon, and then been inserted into the RJ. And so I thought there was a hole to fill.
Yeah.
And I thought that, as I said earlier, there was a yearning for this in the middle, for people who aren't on the far right, not on the far left, not part of what I call back then and still do, the validation culture, where people just watch what they want, to confirm their own previous biases, as opposed to trying to get to the truth. Mm-hmm. And so, the mission of the Indy is to essentially help people make sense of an ever chaotic world. We don't do every press conference, every turn of the screw, to use the idiom of the business. Mm-hmm. We try to go more in depth. I let my reporters write longer and deeper, and we put things in context. If there's controversies out there, we try to fact check them, and so it's worked. Mm-hmm. At least, I mean, as I always said, and I said earlier, we're still alive, so someone likes us.
You're still alive. You're still doing it, and it is a fantastic organization.
Thanks for saying that.
Yes, I love reading your work. I love seeing how your reporters are shaped and how they are molded and how their careers blossom as they work for you. It's shown. The quality of the work is there. I admire it because I am one of those people on the political spectrum, is where I'm in the middle, and I always am looking for that truth. Which way am I going to go? It's whatever the truth comes out. And so I enjoy not just seeing surface level reporting, but really in-depth coverage.
You couldn't say anything better about what these reporters do, Gina. They work so hard at doing it. And as I said, they bought into the culture of what we were trying to do. And it's hard for some reporters because they want to break news all the time. They want to be first with everything. And we're first with a lot of stuff. But we concentrate more on, okay, something's happening in Washington. For instance, the immigration crackdown. How is that affecting people in Nevada? What's happening? We do stories on that. We had one just today on that. And so we try to, people ask, it's confusing, right? Most people are not like me and follow this stuff 24/7. They're normal. They have kids to get to school. They have mortgages to pay, you know. And so they want to go to a place where it can help explain the world to them, and they don't have to come away thinking, oh, that sounded really biased. They can say, oh, that seems right down the middle, which we try to be.
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel the political landscape has changed, or political journalism has changed over the past 40 years that you've been in this business? And you can answer that from a national perspective, local.
So when I started covering politics in 1986, you know, there was no such thing as the internet. And it was the 24-hour news cycle. You filed a story late in the afternoon. It ran the next morning when the paper came off the press and was thrown into someone's driveway. Now the cycle is like a 24-second cycle, right? Like while you and I are sitting here, big things may have been reported on the internet, and so the velocity with which information moves has changed dramatically. How people consume information has changed dramatically. Many people never pick up an actual print newspaper anymore, or even go on websites. Unfortunately, they get their news from Facebook or from Twitter or from Instagram, wherever is convenient. Especially young people, which is most difficult.
Yes,
and so. And so it really, there is a premium. I'm getting things right, I think, even more than it used to be when I first started, because you put something out that's wrong and it gets out there, it goes viral, and it's hard to pull that back. And so you have to be more and more careful, I think. But you also have to adapt. And I think I have, and I think the Indie has, to the digital world in terms of, I mean, if you told me that TikTok would be part of what the Indie does when I started the Indie, I would have laughed at you. But that's a good way to get younger people into the website. As my reporters go on TikTok, do short snippets about their stories, and hope that people will then come onto the site to read the full story. But
real news.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing that's changed is, you know, when I got here, there was the Review Journal and the Sun and the 3 TV stations, and that was it, essentially, right? PBS did a weekly show called Nevada Week in Review, which you may remember, but that was it.
Yeah.
But now there's so many people who call themselves journalists. There's so many bloggers. There's so many other places for people to get information compared to when I started. And I like to say it's the greatest age of information in the history of the universe, but that also means it's the greatest age of bad information.
Yes.
And the lack of discernment by people is what the real problem is. And again, I mention it again, sorry to be repetitive, but the validation culture.
Yeah.
People are only want to have what they believe confirmed by what they're reading, as opposed to exploring what else might be out there, the divergent news sources and opinions. And so that's a real challenge. And it's the nonprofit model, too, is it's very difficult to raise money and to keep it sustainable and to show people the value. But the for-profit model is even harder in some ways. Advertising dollars are not what they used to be for these news outlets, especially in rural areas where news outlets have disappeared and created what are called news deserts now, where people don't know what's going on with their local city council. And even here in Las Vegas, we don't have the resources yet, I hope, to cover local government. The major papers and major TV stations barely cover local government. And it's not only just, look at the corruption that must be going on that we're missing. It's people need to know what's going on in their communities, in their neighborhoods, and it's very difficult for them to get that kind of information.
How do you handle fundraising for the Nevada Independent?
So when it started, I essentially did it all. And we got some big grants early on from some major companies. But eventually I was able to get a major grant from something called the American Journalism Project, which essentially funds only the business side. So people like me don't have to worry about it as much.
Okay.
And that allowed us to hire a revenue team. And I have a revenue team now that helps with fundraising. We do events. We put on events where we raise money that have gotten more and more popular, and we're doing more and more of them. And we raise money. I've interviewed the governor, last 2 governors, maybe 3 governors, on those, and we've had panels of experts on a whole variety of things, from education to economic development to the environment. And so I have a team, but I still do a lot of it, and it's more fun than I thought it would be, in the sense that I see it as a challenge. Like, it's you knock on the door once and they don't open it. You knock on the door twice, they don't open it. Maybe the 3rd or 4th time they'll open it and give you a hearing, and then eventually they'll get some money. So it's a challenge. But also, I have to tell you, the community has been phenomenal in coming forward. The way that this is sustained over the long run is by the thousands of small donors that we have, thousands who give $5, $10, $25 a month. And that gives us some certainty of fundraising, because major donors have fallen out. We've not had grants renewed. And we've been through some rough times. We went through a very rough time during COVID where donations dried up, and I didn't have to lay off anyone, but I had to cut salaries. I didn't take a salary for 4 to 6 months, I forget. And then about 2 years ago, the worst time in my entire career, I had to lay off 4 people. And it was so painful. It has been good for the organization in the long run, and we're doing much, much better now. We have more money in the bank than we ever had. I'm knocking again on this faux wood, which is not really wood, but it's tough. It's tough. That was a searing experience for me, but we're doing better now, and we're up again to the number of employees. We started with 6 people around a kitchen table in Carson City, Nevada, before the legislature. And now we have, I think, 23, 24 employees.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, I like to think of us as big, but we're still, I guess we're big.
Yeah.
I guess we're big.
It's nice to see how much you guys have grown. I started my business the same year, 6 months into, so you started yours in January, I started mine in July. And I remember coming across Elizabeth, and she said, yeah, we're working out of the Switch office. And I remember being in there one time and seeing your team of reporters just working on stories right next to where I was, trying to send emails myself.
Switch was the second donor that we got for the Indy, and in addition giving us a lot of money, they also gave us that workspace. Because one of the things I decided when I started, you have to be lean on expenses. And the way the world works now, even before COVID, but even more so now, is remotely. And so I didn't want to pay rent for a building, because that would have been too much. And so we've never had an actual office.
We do not either, and I love that. Yes, We're on the same field there. Let's talk about your mentoring. You've mentored a generation of journalists who, now lead in Nevada and other national journalism newsrooms. What's your philosophy on developing that next generation?
Well, I think, and I mentioned this before, and I'll say it in a different way now, I'm super proud of the journalism that the Indy produces, but I'm even more proud of the culture that we've built. It's one of collaboration, where the reporters feel that they have a voice, that we're not just going to tell them what to do. They get to come up with their own ideas. They get to say where they think we're wrong. And it's done in a respectful but collaborative way. And so, to teach them best practices, and they're eager to learn. I mean, there's all these cliches about young people today, right? That they're lazy, that all they do is watch TikTok or go on Facebook. But these kids, and I guess I'm old enough to call them kids now since they're in their 20s and I'm in my 60s, but they've bought into that kind of work ethic. And you mentioned nationally, I mean, I have had some people leave. We've cultivated some really great journalists. Megan Messerly, who was one of the first people I hired, now is a White House reporter for Politico, and she's thriving. I saw her recently in Washington, D.C., and she's doing a great job for them. Jackie Valley, who was one of our original reporters covering education, is now working for the Christian Science Monitor. And there's a few others, too, that have gone on to national outlets. And I've wished them all well. I mean, I hated to lose them, but and they all were somewhat tearful when they left, because we have created this great culture, and it's nice to see that people appreciated it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So professional advice, looking back, what are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned about persistence, about integrity that could benefit aspiring journalists?
Well, I mean, as far as integrity goes, the problem is the world is so gray, right? Like, and there's some things that are just have always seemed crazy to me. You know, like you can't ever let a source buy you lunch and this kind of stuff. That's nonsense. But what you can't do is take money for stories or purposely slant stories because of what your ideology is or what your predilection might be. And so, but I see most of the journalists that we've hired coming in kind of fully formed ethically. There have been very rare exceptions where people have crossed lines, and almost nobody's ever complained about our stories in that way. You're always going to have the far right or the far left say, "Oh, that story didn't have the full picture, or didn't tell our side of the story." Mm-hmm. But the thing to remember about journalism, if you're going to call yourself a journalist, is that it doesn't come easy. You can't just go get an IP address and set up a website and say you're a journalist. It's hard. It's hard to get people's trust. It's hard to maintain that trust. Sometimes you don't get a second chance if you make a mistake. But if you make a mistake, I learned this early in my career. If you make a mistake, apologize right away. Mm-hmm. Don't try to put it off on something else, or you've got, because sorry seems to be the hardest word for journalists many, many times, and the defensiveness comes across as arrogance, and that we know better than our readers. And so, and these are lessons I learned, sometimes the hard way, that I've tried to pass on to some of the journalists. But they've taught me a lot too, not just about technology and made me feel like a Luddite at times, but just in terms of new ways to look at things, and they're open to criticism. Journalists, like the politicians they cover, are notoriously thin-skinned, and nobody likes to be wrong, and especially when your name is on a story and then But the best thing you can do is put something at the bottom of the story. This has been corrected. We apologize for the error, and so that's how you build culture. That's how you build a trust. That's how you tell the community we're here for you, and you can communicate with us. And we return all of our emails. It's possible we miss one or two, but we interact with our readers, and we have changed stories because of feedback from readers who know more than us. And so you've just got to have a work ethic, and you got to have integrity. If you're almost all the way there with those two things.
Yeah, it seems like these days too that I think people who are younger people who are considering a career in journalism, I mean, they're serious about it. You are going into a very fragmented, a completely different industry than what it was before, and one where it's going to be really hard work, right? And so that they're dedicated to doing what they're going to do, and it's not a career, we all know, that you're going to become rich and make all the big bucks. It's something that you have to be passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, you can become rich and you can make big bucks, but there's no shortcut to that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, but I think some young people see, look at this influencer who's 22 years old and has millions of followers, and they look at Mr. Beast and whoever, and they look how young these, and they say, I can do that too. And that's just, you're going to get nowhere doing that.
No, and that's not real journalism.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about the future. As you focus on your business strategy and sustainability for the Indy, what upcoming initiatives do you have going on, new innovations, things that you're working on? So
I like to say to people, and I'll say it here, say this to friends, I want to wake up someday and not have the first thing I do look at the spreadsheet I have of how much money we have and how far out that's going to go. Sustainability is the goal, and we're not there yet. We're closer than we were, and I'm feeling good about where we are, but it's hard. It's hard to keep the faith from people. It's hard to get people to realize how important what we do. I mean, when you say that we're a 501c3 nonprofit, we're not like the Red Cross or Safe Haven or something like that. It's more difficult to show people the benefit. I think people are starting to realize it in these times more and more, when there's so much crazy, nasty stuff going on in Washington and even here in Las Vegas or Carson City or Reno. And so, listen, I just flew up to Reno for about 6 hours this week to go do an event that was hosted by two of our board members to introduce myself to people that aren't supporting us and to make the pitch of why they should support us.
Wow.
And so what we're really focusing on now, I have a great new. I just promoted her to be our Chief Revenue Officer, Megan Riley.
Love Megan.
Megan is just phenomenal. And people are going to really see what she can do now that she has a more high-profile role. She's been great. She came to this event with me and had all kinds of great ideas afterwards, as she does after every event, and tells me what to do so I don't screw things up. But we're really working now to get people to make recurring donations. Commit to us for 5 figures for 3 years every year, these kinds of things. That way I can build up a foundation to strategically plan for the future. And someday, who knows when, that I actually can fade into the sunset, although it doesn't seem like it's going to be anytime soon.
And leave your legacy, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So we've gotten to the fun part of our
It's been
interview.
fun so far.
Yes,
It's
okay,
been fun
good,
so far.
good. Well, we've got a fun fill-in-the-blank, Mad Lib style. You just say the first thing that comes to your mind, and this has been super tailored to you specifically.
Uh-oh.
All right, when covering politics in Las Vegas, it's essential to have a solid strategy for...
That's not an easy one, and I saw this before. Asking questions.
Asking questions. In Las Vegas, journalism isn't just about reporting; it's also about
Networking.
One thing every new journalist should know before covering Nevada politics is to never underestimate the power of
how to say the state's name. Then nothing gets me angry. When people say Nevada, learn how to say the state's name.
That's tip number one.
Yes.
When it comes to connecting with a business contact over coffee, lunch, or drinks, you can't go wrong meeting up at.
Well, I meet a lot at Starbucks, but and there used to be a place, and maybe you might not be old enough to remember this place called Papagars, which was a place near Oki and Western, believe it or not.
Oh my
This little
gosh.
dive where all the power elite used to go to have breakfast, and I used to go there all the time, and that was the place to be. But that's been replaced by Starbucks, so it's not as romantic.
And the best way to unwind after a long day of covering Nevada politics is to indulge in some blank to recharge for the next day.
Watch some mindless shows streaming on TV and lie on the couch.
Yeah, that's my favorite end of day TV.
Yeah.
Personal lightning round of questions, so we kind of get to know what Jon fantasizes about in his personal time. What's the most memorable story you've covered in your career, and what made it so significant?
You know, I get asked that a lot, and I've been lucky to cover so many different stories. But I guess my first political convention, which was way back in 1988, when I covered the Republican National Convention in New Orleans. And my favorite story about that, you'll love this. It's the last night. Because of the time difference, I was working really late, and it was like 2 a.m, and a reporter from the AP came up to me, the Associated Press, and said, "Do you have time? We're doing a media story." And I said, I really don't. I'm on deadline. "Well, where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Las Vegas." "Oh, so this must be nothing to you, New Orleans, with the friend." I said, "Are you kidding me? I've seen things on the front." And I said something like, this is much crazier than Vegas." I get back to Vegas, and in the newsroom, they're posted on the bulletin board is the AP story, and guess who's in the lead saying Vegas is nothing compared to New Orleans. But it was so much fun covering that. And also, if I can add, I know you only wanted a quick answer, but I've been able to interview so many great people on TV. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Ted Cruz, all kinds of Mitt Romney, all kinds of different people, and that's really been fun.
Yeah, I can only imagine the people and the places that your job is taking you to, and the figures. If you could teleport anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why?
The Amalfi Coast in Italy, where
favorite.
I've always said, if I disappear, that's where you can find me. It is just a magical place.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely beautiful. And it looks like a fairy tale, right?
It is.
Yeah.
You've been there.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I went to Positano last year, and when I got off the ferry, I looked up and I said, "This looks like Disneyland. This doesn't look like a real place."
It's true. It doesn't seem like a real place.
If you had a superpower, if you could have a superpower for investigative reporting, what would it be, and how would you use it?
Mind reading, of course, because then I would know when people are lying, and I would know all the secrets.
Exactly. And lastly, if you could interview anyone from history, a politician, a journalist, a historical figure, who would it be, and what would you ask them?
That's a great question.
It could be somebody you've already interviewed before, too.
I should do a shameless plug for my Harry Reid book that's coming out soon, but I won't do that.
Why not?
Okay, I have a Harry Reid book coming out, and Harry Reid was the most fascinating guy I covered. And I have the definitive biography coming out 46 days, not that I'm counting, from today.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I'm so excited. I didn't
There will
even
be
know that
book
you were
events
working on that.
in Vegas, and people can come and get the book signed. It's taken me 4.5 years to get this thing published.
Well, sure, you're running a news organization.
That was part of the problem. Yes.
Well, thank you. I look forward to that. I will keep my eye out. I'm sure you'll be posting information on all of your social networks and everything. But in the meantime, where can people follow the Nevada Indie? Where can they follow your work specifically?
So the NevadaIndependent.com, you can get onto the website. Now we're on all the social media channels as well. We post our stories there. You can follow me. And TikTok too, that's right. You can follow me at Ralston Reports on Twitter. But follow the Indie. That's the most important thing. Follow the Indie. Of course.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. Be sure to follow us at GYC Vegas on Instagram, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn, and subscribe to our channel wherever you stream podcasts. And if you want to learn more about how your business or organization can enhance its marketing efforts through the power of PR, visit our website at gycvegas.com. Thanks for listening to Get Your Chat On, and we'll see you next time.